I need a baby, or I lose everything. The CEO said it without blinking. The single dad sitting across from her didn't smile, didn't negotiate. He simply said, then meet my condition. Tonight. What happened that night didn't just save a company. It healed 2 broken lives forever. Before this story takes your heart, like this video and subscribe to True Kindness Tales, because stories like this remind us that kindness can change destiny. The boardroom was silent in the kind of way that presses against your chest, where even breathing feels too loud. Glass walls reflected the city lights, sharp and cold, just like the woman seated at the head of the table. Eleanor Cross, CEO, billionaire, untouchable. Her name alone could end careers or build empires. Tonight, though, her hands trembled slightly as she slid a thick folder across the table. Inside was the final clause of her late father's will, a condition hidden until now. If she failed to produce an heir within 6 months, every controlling share of the company would be transferred to the board. She wouldn't just lose power, she would lose the only thing her father ever gave her approval for. Across from her sat Daniel Reed, a temporary operations consultant hired to fix a failing subsidiary. A single dad. No wealth, no connections, just quiet competence and a reputation for honesty. He wasn't supposed to hear this confession. Eleanor had planned lawyers, contracts, and silent donors. But when she looked at the men around the table, all she saw were predators. Daniel was different. He listened. I don't need love, Eleanor said flatly, her voice controlled but fragile beneath the surface. I need a child. A legal arrangement. Discretion. Daniel felt his throat tighten. His daughter's face flashed in his mind. Soft curls, chipped tooth smile, the way she asked every night if her mom would ever come back, even though they both knew the answer. He had learned the hard way that children were not solutions. They were souls. He stood up slowly, the chair scraping against marble. You don't get a baby the way you get a merger, he said, not raising his voice. The room froze. Eleanor stared at him, stunned that anyone would speak to her like that. If I help you, Daniel continued, you meet my condition. No contracts. No lies. Tonight, you meet my daughter. Laughter rippled nervously around the table, but Daniel didn't smile. If you want a child, he said, you need to understand what it means to be one's whole world. Eleanor dismissed the meeting moments later. The board left confused. Daniel left uncertain if he'd just ended his career. But that night, Eleanor Cross stood outside a modest apartment building, her designer coat out of place, holding a small bag of groceries she'd never bought herself. When the door opened, a little girl peeked out, eyes wide. Daddy? She asked. Daniel knelt. This is Eleanor, he said softly. She's having a hard time. The CEO, who had faced hostile takeovers and global media storms, felt her knees weaken. Because for the first time, the thing she wanted wasn't control. It was connection. Eleanor expected discomfort, but she hadn't expected warmth. The apartment smelled like soup and crayons. The walls were cluttered with crooked drawings and school schedules. Daniel's daughter, Lily, tugged Eleanor's hand without hesitation, pulling her toward a small table set with mismatched plates. You can sit here, Lily said proudly, pointing to a chair with a wobbly leg. Eleanor smiled awkwardly, unused to being told where to sit. Dinner was simple. Laughter was not. Lily talked endlessly. About school, about how her dad burned toast sometimes, about how she wanted a dog but settled for naming clouds instead. Eleanor listened, truly listened, and something inside her cracked open. Later that night, while Lily slept, Eleanor sat on the couch, staring at the quiet room. My father never came home for dinner, she said suddenly. Daniel didn't respond, letting the silence invite truth. He taught me strength, she continued. But never kindness. Over the next weeks, Eleanor kept coming back. At first, it was obligation. Then curiosity. Then something dangerously close to need. She learned how to braid hair badly, how to attend school plays unnoticed, how to read bedtime stories without checking her phone. The board grew suspicious. Rumors swirled. But Eleanor was changing. Daniel noticed it in the way she softened when Lily cried, in the way she stayed even when it was inconvenient. One night, Eleanor broke down. "What if I'm not enough?" she asked. Daniel answered simply, "You show up. That's enough." When the 6-month deadline arrived, Eleanor stood before the board not with contracts, but with courage. She told the truth. About the condition. About the child she'd come to love, not as leverage, but as family. The board laughed, until Daniel entered the room with Lily holding his hand. Not as proof. Not as bargaining. As reality. Eleanor relinquished power that day. But something unexpected happened. Investors rallied. Public support exploded. The board backed down. The company survived. But Eleanor didn't care anymore. Because that night, when Lily fell asleep on her shoulder, Eleanor understood what she had almost lost. Not money. Not power. But the chance to be human. Years later, the story would be told wrong in headlines. They'd say the billionaire CEO adopted a child to save her empire. They'd miss the truth entirely. Eleanor never regained her former title, but she gained something greater. She became present. She became gentle. She became a mother in every way that mattered. Daniel watched her grow, not as a savior, but as a witness. One evening, as Lily practiced reading aloud, Eleanor whispered, "Thank you for giving me a condition instead of a contract." Daniel smiled. "You were ready. You just didn't know it." Lily looked up. "Are we a family?" she asked. Eleanor didn't hesitate. "Yes," she said, tears in her eyes. And in that moment, the clause that once threatened to destroy everything became the reason everything was saved. Not through power, but through kindness. If this story touched your heart, like this video and subscribe to True Kindness Tales, because the world needs more reminders that love, not money, changes everything.